Where my girls at? Independent, free spirit. Ooh, it's something serious. Where my girls at? We link up in a cool minute. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. Where my girls at? It's going down, down. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right. It's going down tonight. We going out tonight. Yeah, right. We going out tonight. It's going down tonight. Yeah, right.
Okay. Where my girls at? Cool minute. We link up in a cool minute. It's going down. It is going down. Oh, yeah, it is going down on this Get Up and Move Motivated Monday. You are listening to We Got Issues with Friendship on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. I'm your host today, Crisette Ellis out of the D, and I'm excited to be here with my girlfriends. We had the weekend off, and oh my goodness, so much has transpired over the weekend, and we're going to try to get it all in on today. But we are absolutely going to take some time and talk about Juneteenth. How did you celebrate it? What's the history? What should we be doing now? How important is it? So we absolutely want to hear, what did you do on yesterday? Or maybe you're celebrating it today. Maybe you had the day off. I know many businesses are closed because of it. So we want to hear, what did you do to celebrate Juneteenth? You can give us a call at 313-778-7600. Again, that's 313-778-7600. You know we absolutely love talking with you. So give us a call and let us know what you did for Juneteenth. Well, you guys, it is Monday. It is a Get Up and Move Monday. You guys know I had to add that Get Up and Move in there because we are having the Force of Friendship is challenging all of our listeners and viewers to a 30-day Get Up and Move challenge in the month of June. And when I tell you, it has been awesome. I have enjoyed it. You have taken the challenge. I mean, I get videos, I get messages telling me what you're doing. You showing me videos of you walking. And I know by the end of June, those clothes are going to fit so good. You're going to be so proud of yourself. And listen, I'm going to tell you, yes, my name is Crisette Ellis, and I did fall off a couple of days, okay? But it's okay, okay? We fall down, but we get back up. And you know what? That's why you have an accountability partner, because when I didn't get up and work out, Sabrina Goodwin Monday, I saw Gloria. They've been holding it down. And I'm so excited to see them on today. We're missing one. We're not all accounted for today. We're missing Caterina. Caterina had an amazing wedding for a family member that she had to attend. And so I'm sure, I don't know if she's landed back on the West Coast or she's traveling, but we're absolutely praying for her traveling mercies. Well, you guys, we had Father's Day over the weekend. And of course, if you watched the game, the Golden State Warriors, OMG. Wow. And you know what? Let me just say this, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. We had two particular Force of Friendship girlfriends that did not go for Golden State. And then the other two, one is not present.
She's talking sports now. She's talking sports.
Okay, is present. Went for Golden State. So we're going to have them talk a little bit about that. But I'm glad to see my girl, Sabrina Goodwin Monday, Geneva on the Lake, Ohio. Oh my goodness, she's looking good. I'm seeing the results of that exercise, and got her shoulders out today. Show us what you're working with, Sabrina. And then we have Gloria from Ellicott City in Maryland. Absolutely, always excited to see you. So Sabrina, talk to us. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Oh my goodness, glad to be back. It's Monday, baby. Monday motivation. Every day is Monday. Another week to get better, another day to be grateful. Warriors, congratulations. Steph Curry, you deserve it. My brother, oh my goodness.
Oh, he's your brother now.
I always was for Celtics and Steph Curry. I always said I wanted the Celtics to win and I wanted Steph Curry to get the MVP. So I got one of my wishes. And Chris, you ought to be ashamed of yourself. You don't even have a team. You don't even know who's playing.
Right.
Golden State is my team, okay?
Okay, show you right.
What's the target?
Did you?
Well, good job.
The whole game. That's
good. They played it. It was awesome, you guys. Great Father's Day weekend to all the dads out there, dynamic dads. To those who are dad figures, happy Father's Day. To the single parents out there who are holding it down, we salute you. And then Juneteenth, I mean, big celebrations all over the country. And it was just really a beautiful sight to see so many people celebrating, acknowledging our history, our heritage, fighting for what's right. The fight still continues. Right. We know that. But it was really good to see supposedly the country take a pause. We're sure some didn't, but hey, it was out there for the taking. I was like, if you ain't gonna acknowledge this beautiful Black talent, brilliance, that's on you, because it was certainly on display. So we keep shining. Yeah, we keep shining. Gloria, I know y'all had a tequila party and everything else going on this weekend. Let me tell y'all, we got alcohol, we got church, we got everything on this show.
What'd you say?
I said, we got alcohol, we got church, we got everything on the Force of Friendship.
Lord have mercy.
Whatever you want, baby, we got.
Give me some oil. Give me some oil right now, okay?
I know, because me and Chris did two different things on this weekend for real. But we did. We had a really great time. You know, it's nice to be able to be outside and had a party that was outside, and we were able to celebrate all the dads that came over, all the women who had to step in as their dads. Like you said, Sabrina, I was a single parent for 7 years, so I know what it's like to have to step into a role that you weren't designed to take on, but you took it on anyway. So I do want to shout out to all the fathers in all capacities that they like. I'm so glad we celebrate that day. I was a little disappointed that we had to celebrate both on the same day, because it seemed like one thing got lost in the other thing, you know, if you picked one or the other. So I was really, you know, I did a post today on my Juneteenth because I didn't want to lose Father's Day, and you don't want to lose Juneteenth. But I will tell you, for me, what has been so exciting is that we forced the conversation. Without this holiday, there would not be a conversation. And to hear that woman who is 95 years old, you know, be the lead person on bringing this to bear is a really big deal. So I'm very excited about that. You know, life is still going on in a lot of different areas. The good news, the bad news is still going on. However, there was a major basketball game, and it was super exciting to watch. And you're absolutely right, Chris. I was on the Go Celtics side. I was truly on the Go Celtics side. And I wanted the coach to win. I wanted that young team to win. But I did know that the Golden State was a stronger team. I did know that they were a stronger team. They're an experienced team. And I loved Steph Curry's wife's post about Father's Day yesterday, where she had her little son and Seth, and they look exactly alike. And it was a beautiful post with them holding the trophies. But seriously, he wasn't just at half court when he was hitting the 3-pointers. He was out there at MIT and threw it from MIT through the building, through Golden State, through the Celtics. What's the Boston Garden? I mean, he was on the other side of the earth throwing those 3-pointers. He was undeniable, unstoppable, clearly super bad all day long, for real.
Oh yeah. And then to just see all of the emotions that came flooding in when it was over. And I did kind of like how he did throw a little shade when you knew that they were going to win, and he started pointing to his finger. I said, oh, he's throwing some shade. He's throwing some shade.
Give it a ring. That's right. Confidence. Right. I call it confidence.
Absolutely. So when it was all over, just to see all of those emotions, just coming,
Yes.
flooding out, and, the tears. And then, I mean, right before Father's Day, to see his father hug him and they share
Yes.
that moment, that was just made for television. That was a feel good moment. And so it was just awesome. I mean, yeah, Golden State showed up to win.
Yes.
And that's exactly what they did. Well, you know what? It is Juneteenth, was on yesterday, and it was another very important day because that was my son, Buddy, and his wife, Angelica. That was their anniversary. So they celebrated their very first. Give them a round of applause.
Yes.
A round of applause.
That's
Thank you, Michael.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, so I'm so excited for them. I said, y'all made it 1 year. So that was right. That was really, really nice. And then over the weekend, you guys, on Saturday, I was able to go to an amazing concert down at Little Caesars Arena with Kirk Franklin. When I tell you, Kirk Franklin
Brought it.
He is just a ball of fire, of energy. There's no way you could be in that arena, and it had to be close to 50,000 people or more that was there. You talking about a concert, you talking about, you could feel the spirit, you talking about black and white and all other kind of nationalities that were there. They also featured the Maverick City Choir. If you haven't heard them, they were just outstanding. And then I got to give a shout out to the Shelby Five were in the house, and they're right here local to us. They were
they're your friends.
Yes. So they sang a little bit with Kirk Franklin.
No way.
Yes, it was a beautiful,
Chris.
Yeah, beautiful night. The graphics was everything. So yeah, that was absolutely amazing. So I am so excited, and this is kind of funny because I get to introduce my guest on today, who is just stealing people's family members. That's all right. She's my family too. So I absolutely can claim her. And I asked you first, so don't even try it. So I'm excited to introduce the sister of Sabrina Goodwin Monday. I want you guys to bring Regina Goodwin to the forefront. We're excited to have Regina with us. Hey, Regina, how you doing?
Hello. Hey, Crisette, how are you? How are you? Hey, Gloria. Hey, Sabrina.
Hey.
It's so good to see you, Regina. Regina is a regular, she's one that we can call, and her schedule isn't too busy. She is always so kind to join us. And so today, when I was thinking about what I wanted to do on Monday, I said, we just celebrating Juneteenth, and it just became a national holiday. And so I said, who better to talk about that than State Representative, Oklahoma State Representative Regina Goodwin. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of her accolades. Regina was born in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and she grew up on Greenwood Avenue in the historic Black Wall Street community, and that is a conversation in and of itself. She is a descendant of the Tulsa Race Massacre survivors. She is committed to obtaining more justice in the fields of health, education, criminal law, and social economics and housing. And you guys, she is just an amazing woman. She has done so much as far as Juneteenth is concerned, securing over $1.5 million in education, scholarship, and funding related to the Tulsa Race Massacre. Among shows, Representative Goodwin has been a guest on MSNBC with Rachel Maddox, PBS, NPR, CNN with Sarah Seidner and Abby Phillips, and on OWN Network documentary. So you know what? She is just an amazing woman doing amazing things. And again, we couldn't think of a better person to have come and share with us and talk about what is the meaning of Juneteenth? How did that all unfold? I know throughout the weekend, there were a lot of different presentations, and they talked a little bit about the history, but we know we can never share it too much, because there are still hundreds of thousands of individuals that don't even know anything about Juneteenth. This is the first time they're hearing about it. And, you know, to be honest, some people are just grateful that they got another day off and not necessarily know the meaning behind it. So what we're going to do, we're coming up close to our break. And so we're going to take our break. And when we come back, we are going to hear from State Representative out of Oklahoma, Regina Goodwin, and she's going to just break down the history of Juneteenth, the history of it, and then we'll talk about what it means now. You're listening to We Got Issues with 910 AM, the Superstation. We're going to take a break, and we'll be right back. We're back. We are back. We are back. And you're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship on 910 Superstation. We're excited. We're talking all things Juneteenth. And we have our very special guest with us here on today's Oklahoma State Representative. Regina Goodwin is in the house, and we are always excited to have her with us. So Regina's catching up on what you've been doing, and then just tell us a little bit about the history of Juneteenth.
Well, I tell you, most recently, we were celebrating Juneteenth here in Tulsa, Oklahoma. And often, as recently as last year, it was known as one of the larger Juneteenth celebrated throughout the nation. So we did what we typically do. We're down in the Greenwood area. Musical guests were like Old School Confunction and Drew Hill. Drew Hill celebrated his 25th anniversary. And once again, it was just great having folks come out. We had civic leaders that were awarded, and we've got Sherry Gamble Smith, who does a great job in Tulsa, Oklahoma, for the last 8 or 9 years when they got to come back down on Greenwood. The whole celebration. So it started here in Tulsa like in the 80s and 90s. Sabrina will remember that when we would go out for Juneteenth and celebrate. And then funding ran out. You had sponsors that were no longer sponsoring Juneteenth. And it took a while to really get the event back and celebrated. So that's what I was doing this weekend. Like I think many of you in your own way celebrated Juneteenth. So that's what I've been doing most recently.
Awesome. Well, there are a lot of people that never ever heard of Juneteenth. And I'm sad to say I was one of them. we were talking about it with some friends, and it's really sad that in the junior high school and in high school, no one ever. I mean, when I literally, and I'll say this, I may have really understood and heard about it when I saw the episode on Blackish. I mean, and that wasn't that long ago. I had no clue that the Emancipation Proclamation had been signed, and there were still slaves that were still working and did not know, and they didn't find out until 2 years later. I mean, that right there, I mean, it was signed, it was on June, I believe, 19th, 1865 is when they found out that the Emancipation Proclamation had set them free. I mean, that is just unbelievable. Can you talk a little bit about that, Regina?
Yeah, we got to talk about the fact that they didn't know because it was intentional. The enslavers in that day understood that this was money. And as soon as word got to the very folks that they were abusing and using that they were actually free, then their profit margin was going to go away. So they intentionally did not tell the enslaved people that they had been freed. So we need to understand that. It wasn't like, there was a breakdown on communication, like they didn't have internet and the internet service was out. No, it was intentional. And also it's important to know that I live in Oklahoma. And Oklahoma, we had in Oklahoma, Black folks that were enslaved by the Native American tribes. So in Oklahoma, there were some Black folks who were not freed until 1866. So even after the word was in Texas very late, we got it in context. Folks in Oklahoma didn't get word because of the treaties of 1866. That's a whole nother dimension. But as we talk about Texas, it was intentional. And we need to understand that not only was it just a matter of withholding the word from them, folks were so envious and mad that these enslaved people would be free. They literally killed these folks rather than have them be free. You need to know that about Texas history also.
No.
Wow.
Oh, we were enslaved, and then we got word, and then everybody did the Jubilee dance and everything, playing banjos. No. For some 2 years after 1865, there were enslaved persons that were killed. There were enslaved persons that were taken to other states, right? Just to keep that really wicked business, evil business industry going, where we were treated like property and used in that way. So that's something folks need to know. It wasn't a simple thing of Gordon Granger, Major General, who had come to Texas to give the word with the federal army. It wasn't just about him delivering the word. It was once he delivered the word, more wicked folks took action to prevent enslaved persons from having their freedom and exercising freedom and actually having the jubilation that we feel today when we're talking about, oh, that's our Independence Day. It was much more bloody and deadly than is often discussed. Deneen Brown did an excellent report on it in the Washington Post just a few days ago, where she brings out a lot of those facts.
Wow. And, just thinking about that, can you imagine being enslaved and then in the morning somebody tell you, you're not a slave again? I don't even know, if your mind could really comprehend it. I know freedom is freedom, and I know somewhere in their hearts and their mind, they always wanted to be free. But it's almost like, they have done those experiments with the frogs that they keep in a container, and they keep jumping, and sooner or later they break their spirit. And even though the lid is removed, they will not jump to get out because they think the lid is there. So I wonder if some of that was taking place too, where what do you do? Where do you go if this has always been your life?
Well, that by itself is hard enough to figure out. But we also need to know that when Black folks were told they were free, they were also told we're going to move now from an enslaved situation to a master situation to employer to employee. Now, they were told that. So keep this in mind as you're talking about what did they do? They were given instruction that you're free. However, now we're going to go on to you. Now you're going to be our paid labor, and I'm still going to be your employer. So that was part of the tricks also, that contracts had to be signed after that, that said that I'm going to be employed with such and such, employed with such and such. And if you did not have that contract, then that was another way of them forcing you into labor. So what you're trying to figure out, Crisette, other folks had already figured out what they're going to do with these folks once they get word that they're free. And then we got to understand that the 13th Amendment, which still exists today, when we talk about we're not fully free, even after the Emancipation Proclamation, even after Juneteenth, June 19th of 1865, you've got the 13th Amendment that basically said, it says that it was the exception clause, and I do want to read it to you so that we understand that we went from enslavement to incarceration, and that exists today. So while we're jumping up and talking about Jubilee Day, we got some things that we got to deal with right now. And we also have to consider that when this became a national holiday last year, what else was going on when we got word that, hey, we're going to have a federal holiday this Juneteenth? Why was that in that time period? And I would say that I appreciate the day. I appreciate folks acknowledging that that's when Black folks were free. But we also need to know HR 40, which dealt with reparations, was a hot topic. And instead of having HR 40 signed, which would talk about a study of reparations for all enslaved folks, they say, well, how about we do a federal holiday? It's called Juneteenth. How about that? And was that a distraction? Or was it really fair that we did not adequately deal with HR 40? Okay. So your question is a great question. What do you do when all of your life, you've been enslaved? How do you handle freedom? What are you going to do? Who's going to really hire you? What transferable skills do you have, right? That someone really wants to give you honest pay. We don't have an honest pay even today in 2022.
Right.
We're still looking at, minimum wage for many folks. So I think, Crisette, your question is very fair, but we got to understand that as you were thinking about that question, the very folks that did not want them to get word were already figured out. We're going to transfer you from enslaved to master to employer, employee, where you're still not really being paid well. And also the 13th Amendment that said you will no longer be a slave except if you are convicted and in prison. Then we can utilize you as an enslaved person. That exists right now in the 13th Amendment. Hello.
So then it became, if we incarcerate them, then they still have to give us free labor. So they switched from just outright saying we're going to take you, but now I'm sure they found many reasons to say that they broke the law or whatever. And you know what? That just goes to show you, just when you think you got it, they are still 5, 10, 15 steps ahead of where you think we are, right? 15 steps ahead, already thinking.
Yes.
So
there. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Regina.
No, Gloria, I'm listening.
No, I just was saying that I was with someone this weekend and they were talking about the incarceration and how many people just in the state of New York are in there and have been there for 5 months and 3 years without trial. And their parents don't have the $300 or $400 or $500 to bail them out. It's such a deep system that we are not aware of. You know, we hear these things, but we don't understand the depth of the slavery that is happening in incarceration. So I'm glad you brought that up.
Absolutely.
Wow. There's the music. There's the music. So we're going to put a pin in it right there. When we come back, Regina, I absolutely want you to address that. Okay. Incarceration. And that is, you know, today's slavery. Right. So we want to talk about that when we come back from the break. You're listening to We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. We're going to take this break and then we'll be back with State Representative from Tulsa, Oklahoma, Regina Goodwin. We'll be right back.
All right. Okay.
We're back. We're back. We're back. And we are here with State Representative, Tulsa, Oklahoma, Regina Goodwin, and we are talking about Juneteenth. And right before the break, we were talking about how, you know, the slaves shed their slave clothes only to be issued their jail clothes and to be incarcerated. So before you talk about that, Regina, we have a caller. Daryl, are you there?
Absolutely. How you all doing today? And thank you for covering such a powerful topic and educating the people on this because the state rep is spot on everything that she's talking about. In fact, the prison wages and slave wages that they have on the inside is deplorable. The exploitation that takes place, not only from the state side, but even from the private sector side, that they have private prisons and private juvenile facilities where they have been found that judges were feeding prisoners to particular private prisons and getting a kickback. And, you know,
Right.
Yes, you know, you see all of that type of stuff happening. And so the exploitation is very, very real. You can't even really begin to, you know, expose all this type of corruption that's in the system. Everything is privatized. Healthcare is privatized. The food is privatized, and everybody is making a dollar off of the blood, sweat, and tears of someone incarcerated. You know, so I'm very, very happy to pleased that you are covering this subject. And also, you should know, First Lady, that HR 40 is something that was championed by our Congressman, John Conyers, for years and years, for decades. He put that in, and that is something that should continue to be pushed.
Wow, that's so true. I'm so glad you brought that up, Daryl. Thank you so much for calling. Yes, John Conyers, he was
a champion for that bill. And, you know, it seems like sometimes, you know, they try to give us something so that we don't know the bigger picture. You know, sometimes we can fall for the okie doke. We're so excited about getting another holiday, you know, having a day off work, when the bigger picture is, no, let's talk about giving us, what was it? How many mules and how much land, you know, where
40 acres, baby. 40 acres.
Okay, 40 acres.
Yeah.
So Regina, talk to us a little bit about that, and then we're going to go to Sabrina.
Yes, and Crisette, thank you, and I appreciate the caller. I wanted to read, right? I wanted to actually read what the language says in the 13th Amendment. It seems like it says that slavery formally ended in the United States on December 6, 1865, with the ratification of the 13th Amendment, which stated, neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States. Now watch the language. They say, we're not going to have any slavery, except if you get convicted of a crime, then we got slavery. That's exactly what that says. And it is in the 13th Amendment. It is still binding today. And you have activists now that are talking about freedom from cell enslavement, right? Jail cell, prison cell enslavement. And we have to be really mindful of the language that we are bound by today and have these conversations, because this is what we have to deal with. So I wanted to read that 13th Amendment. If anybody talks to you about Juneteenth, if anybody talks to you about freedom, talk to them about the 13th Amendment and just wait for it. Wait for that pause and wait to see what they're going to say. Okay. What was the second part of your question, Crisette?
No. That was, you know, the fact that the other part of that conversation, and I saw a couple of years ago, a documentary, and they were just talking about, you know, all of the crimes that they would say that these people had committed that they did not commit. And then the judges were in on it. So they had to work off so many years and give free labor, because otherwise they were going, you know, to be put in prison. And they were brought up on false charges, is what I'm trying to say. And so, I mean, it's just so sad of, you know, how, you know, you think you're free, but really, and even today, you're not as free as you think you are.
And in that day, Crisette, you said, what did they do? They actually had a law that said, if you're newly freed, if you are milling around trying to figure it out, quote unquote, loitering, that was a crime. And then they could arrest you for not having anything to do and being too idle. So notice that you just said any human being has to figure it out, right? And if you're trying to figure it out, they're going to criminalize you for taking the time to think about it. You might be hanging out on somebody's land, milling around, and that was criminal activity, according to somebody that wanted to just enslave you in the first place. Yeah. So your first question at the top of the show is folks that are wicked already know what a human being is going to try to do to better themselves. First of all, you have to have a minute to reflect, a minute to pause and think and strategize about what your next move is. And in doing that, that activity was criminalized.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very, very tragic that all these years later, enslaved, imprisoned, wrongfully, these words ring so true. They're so real. You get arrested for having a hoodie on, for eating some Skittles. You get killed. You get shot. My goodness, Regina, we thank you for the work that you do. Being one of very, very few people of color on that House floor in the state of Oklahoma. Even with this holiday, you were telling me that because I was like, well, everybody's off, right? It's a federal holiday. You said, well, not every state. It's not written that we're all right. It's not a federal holiday in every state. So talk a little bit about the language of Oklahoma, because we think it's a federal holiday everywhere, and it's not, which is just, my goodness. My hat is off to you, sister. You've got more patience, you got more kindness, you got more compassion than I could ever have. So I'm glad that God chose you for politics, because it ain't my thing. So, sister, good job.
We need you, Regina. We need you big time, big time.
Sure. So that's my first point. Then I got another question, but go ahead, Regina. Go ahead.
Okay. So in Oklahoma, just a few weeks ago, to deal with this whole federal holiday, a legislator decided in House Bill 4190 that in Oklahoma, what they might do is say, we can have a personal holiday. They wouldn't acknowledge Juneteenth in and of itself. They were going to say, everybody in Oklahoma can have a personal holiday. You can take it whenever you want. If you choose to take June 19th, you can. If you choose to take Indigenous Day, which was Columbus Day, you can, right? But this is their way of denying the fact that just like we celebrate July 4th, Independence Day, we should be able to celebrate June 19th, because that was the actual day that Black folks were free. And in Oklahoma, that is the legislation that they put forth. They said, in Oklahoma, you can celebrate your birthday. Every individual can celebrate their birthday as a state holiday, as you would Juneteenth. And now that legislation moved off the floor, moved over to off the House floor, over to the Senate side, and it's still not yet been signed by the governor. It's a issue right now that's trying to be decided, and we're out of session right now, so it's not happening this year in Oklahoma. So I can tell you something that should be embraced, that white folks, Black folks, yellow, red folks should say, oh yeah, it's a matter of fact. Slavery, was just acknowledged in terms of ending in 1865, and people don't want to embrace it. They would rather you celebrate your own birthday than celebrate the fact that Black folks were free.
And the sad thing is, they just really do not want, there are those that just really do not want to acknowledge that this happened, and that, 2 years we had free people that were still working. That's just like, there are those that don't even acknowledge that the Holocaust happened. So, those are the kinds of things, that make you angry. I want to read this. Michelle Mayer said, mass incarceration is slavery by another name. The private prison corporations are on the stock market. The supply products to most Fortune 1000 companies. The CEOs are obligated to return a profit, and the prisoners help ensure it. The local policing agencies get kickbacks for helping fill the prisons. Now, that right there is a show in and of itself.
Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. It is an industry that profits off of our pain, that profits off of imprisonment. You got to keep the beds full to keep the investors happy. And that's absolutely true. And so these, you know, when you're out on the street and an officer, a bad officer, stops you, and you simply say, "Hey, officer, what did I do? Why are you arresting me?" One of the first things they'll say is, "You're obstructing justice because you had the audacity to question and be concerned about your rights." So often the most, you know, it could be a tail light, it could be something very minor. And then you ask, "Hey, why are you stopping me?" All of a sudden he says or she says, "You're obstructing justice."
Regina,
or resisting
Regina,
arrest.
hold that thought,
Okay.
because we want you to absolutely break that down to
Address
us
that.
when we come out of this break. Okay, you're listening to
Yep.
We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. We're talking Juneteenth with State Representative Regina Goodwin is here, and I'm telling you, she is telling us a whole lot of the history, so you don't want to miss it. Join us right after this break. All right, we are back. And we're excited today to be talking all things Juneteenth. All right, right before the break, Regina, you were talking to us about Juneteenth, and you're talking to us about what is going on in that area there. So can you finish your thought?
Yeah, just thought I wanted to be known that as we talk about going from enslavement to incarceration, what we're dealing with right now in 2022, can understand how this affects voting. Once you get convicted, say officer pulls you over, he says you're obstructing justice, right? You get convicted of some wrongful arrest and wrongful charges, then your voting rights are taken away. So understand all of this is
Right.
a domino effect, right? And,
Right.
and you got to ask
Yeah.
yourself, how is it that you can get arrested, get convicted, your voting rights are taken away? However, if you get out on parole, you get a 10-year sentence, you spent 5 years in, you got 5 years to go, you still cannot vote. You got to ask yourself, how's it that you're working and paying taxes, but you're not allowed
Right.
to vote? So understand how all of this works together. And I just wanted to put that out there very quickly. And HR 40, it should have been passed. They're just saying, can we have a study on reparations? They have a majority of folks right now at the White House, in the House of Representatives that can pass it. You have to ask yourself, why isn't it being passed and why isn't it being considered? Because things are changing. Gerrymandering has happened. This is probably our best opportunity to get HR 40, just to have a study of reparations.
Right.
And I don't see it happening. And you see a lot of folks talking about it, but folks are out there at the White House just marching just a couple of days ago because they see it slipping through their fingers. So I just wanted to say that very quickly.
Wow. Wow. Thank you. We have a couple of callers. Bernitha, are you there?
Oh, hi. And yes, I am. And when you brought up the prison system, right, and the for-profit prison system at that, yes, it is so true. But that is just one of the spider legs, because it's even tied to the public education system. Using literacy studies, they noticed the literacy percentages among the incarcerated, okay? And decided that was a predictor of future incarceration, and that they could use it to decide how many prisons to build in an area. They can go off the third grade test. Diabolical.
Right. That's a great word.
So right. So you said, what did you say, Regina? They go off of the third grade?
They can go into through test scores. I literally, in preparing my students for the testing, I literally had to make them mad. Like, these folks are lying on you. They're saying you can't learn this and that and the third, to get them to do what they needed to do on the test. And every single year, they crushed it. And these were my kids who were literacy deficient, because they're by classification, special needs kids. They were not supposed to be able to do this, and literally crushed over even the so-called normal students. And it sickens me. It has been so said to us that it's taken as part of the culture. And in a certain part of our culture, they take being incarcerated, doing your time as a badge of honor, surviving it, you hard. The whole sagging issue, with the pants sagging and the way that they're dressing, they think it came out of the penitentiary and was showing that was so hard and all of this. They don't know their history. Go through the history, look up the term buck breaking, and you'll know exactly what it is. I mean, I don't even want to say what it is.
Right. Bernitha, thank you so much for calling. I mean, that is
important to know that, they're basing the number of prisons that they're going to build on the test scores of, our young people. And I'm so glad that as a teacher, you made them mad so that they would excel on those tests, because we know that our children are capable and they are more than able to pass those tests. So we're so thankful that they have teachers like you that were, you know, doing your job. We thank you so much for calling. We have one more caller. We're going to try to squeeze in before we conclude on today. Jerome, are you there?
Yes, thank you for taking my call. You know, there's one thing that we're leaving out of the fold that will probably take care of HR 40 and everything else in the world. And it's simply this: we're leaving out the children. Black children do not have the same representation as white children. And we owe ourselves the greater good to make sure that they have the same amount of representation. And what that simply means is that in order for you to make decisions or teach a white child, you have to have X amount of hours of accreditation of their history in order to make decisions on it. But with black children, their history isn't even in the book. So what that simply means, for the whole 20 years that the school board, or not the school board, but the state took over your children and made decisions, the whole 20-year period, there was nobody at the highest level of governance who had the accreditation to make decisions on black children. So what we need to do for HR 40 is help America deal with this dark past by making them know their story. And if they know their story, it'll show that most of the people that committed all of the crimes, if they would have simply knew their history at an early age, they would have changed their minds of all of the crimes that we commit against our children. So make them know our story. Make them tell the rest of his and her story, which will automatically include our story. No student should be able to graduate from any public school or student or any institution without knowing our story in its entirety with all this grass. It's real simple. If they knew better, they would do better. And if we knew better, we would do better.
Wow. I mean, that alone is so powerful. It starts with the children because we know that our children are our next generation. So powerful. Thank you so much, Jerome, for sharing that on We Got Issues. Gloria?
I'm just blown away, Regina. The wealth of this information that you're bringing and the wealth of the information that we don't even know as Black people. We don't know what's going on, and that we have to be educated on so many fronts that are out there that you're bringing to light. So I want to thank you for that, because I think that we all have to commit to digging deeper, because we have for so long relied on some people who they have already said out loud they don't want to educate us, and that's the only way we're getting our education. So we have to talk about how to educate ourselves, what to watch, what to do to get educated.
Right. And I wanted to say that we have to rely on ourselves. First of all, that education starts in the home, not in the school building, not in the church house. It should start within the confines of that home if you can, if you're able.
Right.
And if somebody doesn't want to teach us our history, it says that when an ancestor dies, a library burns down. So the oral history that we have within our families, the stories, the knowledge that we have about our aunts and uncles and great-grandmothers, grandfathers, let's teach ourselves, and then let's continue to push, as the caller said, to get this implemented in our school system. But if they don't, we will.
Absolutely. Wow. Wow. What a powerful conversation today. Thank you.
And
Regina,
what I heard, Chris, let me just say this last.
Yes.
Okay. When Regina talked about ancestry, we will be, they said this last night on that great CNN special, we will be an ancestor, act accordingly. So we all have a call to do what's right, what's just, educate, teach, preach. Back to you, Crisette.
That was an excellent poem. We need to post that poem. That was
absolutely excellent. So powerful.
Absolutely.
So powerful. You guys,
you've been
listening to. Thank you. You've been listening. We Got Issues with the Force of Friendship. Tune in tomorrow for another powerful show from 6 to 7 p.m. We'll see you on tomorrow. Ciao, ciao. Bye, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye. Love you guys. Love you.